Hello, everyone. Welcome to Speak Up Sis Talk Radio. This is the show where I, as well as my guest authors, share our stories through our books to inspire you to speak up and share your own story. Today, I have invited author Tyeisha Brewer-Fields to Speak Up Sis Talk Radio to talk to us about her book, which debunks the myths surrounding mental illness. Let me tell you, this is a great conversation. I know you're going to enjoy it. So welcome, Tyeisha, into the Speak Up Sis Talk Radio space.
Hey,
hello, Tyeisha. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation to come on Speak Up Sis Talk Radio and share your story as well as the works of your hands via your book, or shall I say books, with me as well as the Speak Up Sis Talk Radio audience. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of jump right into this. If you will, please, Tyeisha, tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you're currently doing in your life right now.
Okay. I am a mental health advocate. I am an author of 2 published books. And right now, I am just trying to get my business started with advocacy in mental health. I am also in school for behavioral health. So eventually, I do want to be a licensed psychologist with my own practice.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I'm working on that. Of course, I'm a wife, mother, and that's about it.
That's a lot. You said that's about it. Like, oh, I just walk my dogs all day and eat popcorn and drink wine. No, ma'am. That is quite a bit. So you said you're a mom. How many children do you have?
I have 5 children. I call them the Fab 5.
Oh my goodness. It's rare that I meet a woman who can one-up me. But you have definitely one-upped me. My goodness. This is new. I did not know that you have 5 children. Girls, boys, what's the makeup of the children and what are their ages?
3 girls, 2 boys. The oldest is 10 and the youngest is 6 months. So I have them from 6 months, 4, 5, 8, and 10.
Oh my goodness. Woo! I remember those days, Tyeisha, with my 4 sons. My oldest is 19. He'll be 20 in April. 16-year-old twins and a 14-year-old who will be 15 this month, actually, on St. Patrick's Day. And I remember when I had a 4-year-old, 2 1-year-olds, and a newborn. I get it.
Yes, and you have twins.
Yes. I can, believe it or not, the twins are the middle children.
Wow.
Why did I go back to the well? I'm not really sure. I think I kind of forgot what made those babies happen. I don't know. But I kept going back to the well even after the twins. I'm not really sure why, but they are here and they're beautiful. And yes, 5 beautiful babies. They are a blessing. So I'm not going to trip, right? You've got 5, I've got 4. That's a lot, honey. We could whip some people up on a basketball or football or something. So listen, let's go ahead and jump right into your first book. That's the one I really want to say. And it's entitled Normal by Whose Standards? Debunking Myths That Surround mental illness. Okay, you're going to have to give us some background on this book. What made you want to write this book?
Okay, so first I will start by telling you all what made me want to write it. I have dealt with mental illness for most of my life, really as long as I can remember. So I was very young when I had my first episode, and it started out as like a depressive episode, and I eventually got diagnosed with clinical depression, and that was, I can't remember the exact age I was, but I was in elementary school, so I was still very young. And then it eventually progressed to major depressive disorder. And then when I was 26, I got diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, depressive type, after actually getting a psychological testing done.
Okay, so I'm going to need you to please help me, as well as the listeners, get maybe a better understanding of some of the diagnosis, because I can be honest and say I really don't have a clue as to the difference between clinical depression or major depressive disorder, or even what did you say? Schizo, what was the last one?
Schizoaffective disorder, depressive type.
Yes. So if you will, please just briefly in a layman's terms, kind of help me as well as the listeners understand the progression of the disorder. It sounds like it's sort of a progressive type of disorder versus three totally separate. I'm not sure. You want to help us understand that?
Right. It was more of a progressive thing, like you said. Clinical depression it's more like it comes and goes. Like, you may have it for this amount of time, and then it may get better, it may go away, but it could come back. So
okay,
it's not like a ongoing thing, but it is a long-term thing, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. It was medication given to you during this this phase of it?
Yes, but not from the start though. It started out with the school counselor, and then it progressed to psychologist, psychiatrist, and of course, once I started seeing a psychiatrist, that's when medicine got involved, because that's what a psychiatrist is. They prescribe medicine. A psychologist cannot prescribe medicine.
Okay. All right. So what sort of led to the next level? I guess the major depressive?
Yes. I guess my episodes just kept, I don't know if it was that they were coming more frequent or if they were getting worse, but I do know that during high school, I was like a freshman in high school. That's when I had my first suicide attempt. And I can't even remember if that was when the major depressive disorder came or if it was before then. But prior to that, I was not on medication. I had taken myself off of medication. I didn't want to take it. So after that attempt, then of course I got back on medication and started getting treatment regularly again.
And did that help?
Well, I'm not going to say it didn't help. I'm going to say that I was in denial, and I was a teenager, and you know how teenagers
I understand. Yeah.
I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So
got you. So fast forward, you're now at this third sort of level or phase of this particular disorder.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? How can you explain that to us?
So schizoaffective disorder, and believe it or not, I had never heard of it until I got diagnosed with it. But it is a combination of two kinds of major mental disorders. So you can have schizoaffective disorder, depressive type, which is a combination of a mild schizophrenia and affective disorder, bipolar type, which is a combination of a mild schizophrenia and bipolar.
Okay. All right. So now you're at that place, and that's where you sit as of today. Is that correct? All right. So from this place, how did you get to a place where you decided, I want to write a book about this?
I have always known that I wanted to write a book, but I just didn't know how to get started, about what, and then this kind of started happening in my life, and it was just like, for a long time I was in denial. I was like, nothing's wrong with me, or trying to hide it, trying to cover it up, because I was always embarrassed about it, not wanting people to know. And then it just got to a point where I'm like, people need help. Like, people need help. People need to know that they're not alone, that they can overcome stuff, come through stuff. And that's kind of where I got the idea from to write the book.
Okay. And a part of the title is debunking myths that surround mental illness. So do you mind sharing with us what some of those myths are that you found on while you've been on this journey and in the process of, writing the book? What are some of the myths that you found that surround mental illness?
Yes. So one of the big ones that I have heard a lot of is, oh, you just need prayer. And that comes from, of course, the spiritual and religious people, and which I agree that we all need prayer, but sometimes you need more than prayer. And so I've noticed that a lot of churchgoers or religious individuals don't believe that mental illness or mental disorders are real.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that, because Speak Up Sis Talk Radio, we are on a Christian network. And so a lot of the listeners of the Lifted Authors Radio Network, as well as the Finding My Way network, are Christians, are Christ followers, mm-hmm. right? And so I'm sure that this is a topic that many of them have some thoughts about, and have some feelings about. Do you consider yourself a Christian or a follower of Christ? Do. Okay, so how do you sort of reconcile the idea of just pray about it, and at the same time sit in a place where you know that this is something you deal with? How do you handle the two components as an individual, and how do you share that or help people who may sit in a place like you, who are dealing with mental illness but are at the same time followers of Christ?
So it took me a while to accept it, once again. And one of the reasons, when I got older, one of the reasons that caused me to have a hard time accepting it was that me and my husband were in the church real good. We were just good churchgoers. And mm-hmm. So I felt like, well, all I need is prayer, or I don't need medicine, or, you know, just stuff like that. So that's one of the things that made it hard for me to accept the fact that I do have a disorder and I do need treatment in addition to prayer and reading my Bible and fasting and everything else. So just really acceptance and educating myself.
I understand. One thing you said when you first began to share is that many church people believe that mental illness is not real. And I've shared some thoughts about this on some other platforms. I try not to get too heavy into controversial things because I know that's just not where God has led me to go. However, I agree that mental illness is real. It's not that it's not real. I think we all have differing opinions about how to deal with it. But for anybody to say that depression is not real or any other type of mental illness is not real, clearly they don't read the Bible.
Right. You are so right.
Because the Bible is filled with people who had all sorts of physical ailments as well as psychological ailments. How we deal with those, that may differ, but we've got to acknowledge that is real and that people are living with these conditions and they need help.
And one of the things, that I always say is treatment is not limited to, like, a lot of people think that treatment is limited. So when you say treatment, they automatically think, oh, medicine or oh, therapist, oh, psychologist. And that's not the case. Those are very important factors for a lot of people living with disorders. But for some people, treatment may mean that you need to exercise, because exercise has actually been proven to be one of the most effective treatments for not only physical illnesses, but mental illnesses as well. So I always say treatment is treating yourself, whatever you need to do to treat yourself to wellness.
Wow. Is that another one of the myths that you cover in your book? This idea that treatment is just medication or a therapist?
I briefly talk about that in the first book. I elaborate on that more in the second book.
So what's the title of your second book? I believe you told me it's Outside the Jacket.
That is correct.
Okay, so we're gonna get into that one for a second. Let's just go ahead. I don't like to wait. I like to eat my dessert for dinner sometimes. So
absolutely.
The title of Outside the Jacket. Okay, so I'm just gonna be honest. Considering the first book is about mental illness, when you told me Outside the Jacket, I was thinking, is she talking straight jacket? Outside the straight jacket? Please help me out. Was I on the right track or no?
On the right track. I am not talking about a physical straight jacket, though. I compare.
Okay.
I talk about in the second book. I talk about mental bondage, and I compare that to being in a straight jacket, because when a person is in a straight jacket, then they can barely move. They have limited movement. And so mental bondage is kind of the same thing. Like, you're very limited to what you can do, what you can accomplish, because I say that the mind is the devil's playground. When he has your mind, then he has everything that he needs, because that just, the mind is what are the words I'm looking for? The mind is,
it's you. It's your soul. I don't think people realize that we are spirits. We live in a body and we possess a soul, and our soul is our thinker, our feeler, right? It's our thoughts, it's our emotions. And so if he can, wrap his hands around your mind and your emotions, then I mean, that's you.
Absolutely.
Right? So I totally get that. I know what you were saying, girl. Go ahead.
Yes. And so I talk about, I dig deeper into some of my stories where I was in mental bondage and how I got set free, and using that to help others get set free.
That's what's up. I totally believe in Revelation 12:11, and that's sort of the heart or the foundation of my Speak Up Sis platform, whether it's Speak Up Sis with Angel Charmaine, my Facebook Live, or whether it's Speak Up Sis Talk Radio, or if it's Speak Up Sis Podcast. It's all about understanding that we overcome the enemy through the blood of the Lamb, as well as the word of our testimony. So when we get to a place where, like you and I and so many other people are willing to share the words of our testimony, right? We're willing to open up and be honest about what we're going through in our lives. Not only do we heal, but we help other people to be able to walk in a place of healing, and to begin to overcome their obstacles or whatever issues they're dealing with in their own lives. So I want to go back to your first book, Normal by Whose Standards. When I think about the word normal, oh my goodness, normal is so relative.
Yes.
Is relative. And when people talk about things being normal, I just want to say, whose normal are you talking about? Like, which
You're right.
normal?
You're so right. And that's why I use that title to go with what I was talking about in the book, because it's like society has formed this view of what is normal and what is not normal. But normal by whose standards? Like, everyone is normal. Your normal just may not be my normal.
Right. When I was an AW2 advocate, or an Army Wounded Warriors advocate, I worked with our country's most severely wounded, ill, and injured service members who are in the Army branch of the military. And one of the things I used to try and help my clients understand is that they were going to have to learn how to live a new normal, because the life they had prior to their injury or illness, or whatever they're dealing with, their condition, the life they had prior to that is gone.
Right.
Life changed with the injury, the illness, the condition. And they're going to have to first, like you said, get to a place of accepting that, so that you can figure out what your next steps will be and what the best next steps will be for you.
I like that.
We all have to, we all got to find a new normal at some point, even as believers, when you get that transformed heart, that renewed spirit, that right mind, your normal changes.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? You got some new conditions.
Absolutely.
Some people will call us crazy, right? That's what they do.
You're right.
You got a mental problem. You believe in that Jesus stuff, right? But it's a new normal. You've got to now learn how to live in this new place with this new understanding of who you are, at this particular time, right? And there are things you're going to have to do in order to operate in this new place. So, okay, share with us. We have enough time for you to share with us another myth that you debunk in your book surrounding mental illness.
Okay, so another myth that I've heard is mental illness means what society calls slow, referring to one's IQ. And a mental disorder does not always affect a person's IQ. Some of the people with the highest IQs are people with a mental disorder.
I think it's the word mental.
Yes.
Because a lot of people equate mental with cognition.
Yes.
I think that's it right there. Like, yeah, if you say something, it's like, oh, something's mental, it's your head, it's your thinker, it's, you know, how smart you are. And I agree with you. I can see how people would think that. So how do you debunk that? Do you mind sharing with us just a little peek into the book? How do you debunk that myth in your book?
I basically share that a mental illness does not always have anything to do with your IQ. Just like me, I have a major mental disorder, and I've written books. I'm in school. I'm very functional at life. It's just that, like we just discussed, I have a new normal. I have to take medication. I have to make sure that I'm treating myself for my mental wellness so I can do these things, be a mother, be a wife, continue to write, continue to go to school. Because, of course, mental illnesses does affect your cognitions and your ability to perform your daily life activities, but it does not have to.
Gotcha. The treatment can help you be able to operate at your optimal level. Is that a decent word to use? Yes. You had listened, sis. I can only keep it 100 with you. I'm not the most PC person, although I do believe in being respectful. So I try to use the right words because I'm old school and country mixed with a little ghetto, mixed with a little, straight no chaser. And so sometimes it's hard for me to make sure that I'm using, words that don't offend people. So that's what's up. That's what's up. All right. Listen, I am grateful that you took just a little bit of time out of your schedule to come share with us a piece, just a fraction of your story, as well as this book. Tell me, who was this book written for? Is there a specific audience? Is this book written for people who are actually dealing with mental health issues, or is this a good book for people who are working with individuals with mental, or is this a book to just make who's going to benefit from reading this book?
I think everyone could benefit because the awareness is needed, whether you're dealing with the mental illness or not. The awareness is needed to decrease the stigma that surrounds it.
Okay. Do you do some other work outside of, you already have like a ton of stuff you're doing. You're in school, you're dealing with your own kids, with your husband, you're dealing with all these things. However, do you find any time to actually work with young people who may be dealing with what you dealt with when you were a high school student. We didn't even get into the suicide attempts and things of that nature. But do you mentor or work in some capacity like that? Are you open to working at that capacity?
I have not done any work like that yet, but I am open to it, and I am hoping to be able to start doing it. I actually want to start doing speaking engagements and mentoring other individuals. I have hosted a few events surrounding mental illness, just bringing awareness. I am open to working with other individuals, speaking engagements, or, whatever.
Listen, this is your opportunity here on the Speak Up Sis Talk radio show to put yourself out there. So give the people your social media handles or your email or however they can contact you.
So I have Facebook. My personal Facebook is Tyeisha Alexis. And I also have a business page, and that's Glowing Thru Concrete. And Thru is spelled THRU. And I'm on Instagram as Ty_Alexis.
How can people get your book?
My
books?
First book, Normal by Who Standards, that can be purchased on Amazon or any bookstore online. And the second book can be purchased on Amazon. The second book can be purchased as an ebook as well.
So, okay, sis, listen, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your talent. I bless God for your life and your testimony. I'm so grateful that you're willing to share this word of your testimony, because mental illness it's still taboo, especially in communities with people of color. We're still in a place where we really don't want to deal with it. We really don't like talking about it. Even in, religious spaces, it's still pretty taboo. So I applaud you for being willing to share the word of your testimony to help some other people be able to open up their mouths and share the word of their testimony as well. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate
and thank
you,
you again for having me.
All right, everybody. We are done. Thank you so much for rocking with us today on Speak Up Sis Talk Radio, and we will see you next time. Bye. All right, everyone, we're done for the day. I appreciate your time and ear. I thank you for tuning in to Speak Up Sis Talk Radio, where Christian authors have an opportunity to share their stories to inspire yours. Please visit me online at speakupsis.com. Follow me on Facebook at Speak Up Sis Talk Radio, Instagram at speak.up.sis, Twitter at Speak Up Sis. You can even email if you just like to give feedback on today's show. Email contact@speakupsis.com. Until next time, have a beautiful day. Be blessed. Bye.